Thanks for joining us for the 50th episode of the FieldLink Podcast. If you're a first-time listener, we encourage you to check out all 50 episodes wherever you get your podcast and to learn more about the deep agronomic insight from the people that help grow the food and fiber that feeds our nation, to the policymakers that helps ensure crops as well as environment are safe and sustainable, to the grain market insight and the passionate people that deliver the services and knowledge to growers across our great nation. Joining us today on our 50th episode is Phill Hollis. Phill is the Executive Vice President for Helena Agri-Enterprises, and today he'll discuss the changing landscape of ag retail. With the evolution of technology, regulations, and the post-era effect of COVID, Phill will share his insight on how Helena is working to meet the growing demands of growers in a very complex and evolving marketplace. Plus, Jody Lawrence from the Strategic Trading Advisors in Nashville breaks down the details of the latest USDA WASDE report. Stay tuned for this special 50th episode of FieldLink. And welcome back to FieldLink as we kick off our 50th episode of FieldLink. And joining us today is Executive Vice President Phill Hollis. Phill, welcome to FieldLink.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, Phill, let's before we get into the weeds of the industry and talking about, the ag retail business, let's just pause a second here and talk a little bit about you, Phill. Where's home?
Home is Audubon, Indiana.
Audubon, Indiana. Yeah. And you grew up in India on a farm?
Grew up in a small farm just outside of our farms, actually, are about 15 minutes just southwest of Audubon, and a little small town, kind of border Attica, Indiana to Williamsport, that area right in there. Grew up, believe it or not, right on the border of what we call Benton County, Indiana, and Tippecanoe, and our farms all exist in Warren. So traveled a lot to get to farm ground. Actually, it's 15 minutes, and we're good. But no, cut my roots there, grew up, went to a small school there, and then ended up at Purdue University.
Okay.
And got a chance to not only go to Purdue, but play baseball at Purdue and learn not only how to get an education in agriculture, but also how to get an education in life and humility at times playing the game.
That can definitely happen in sports. You find out real fast where you stand sometimes.
You bet. I figured out real quick that the town of 500 translates to a global world, and I learned that not only long before we got into business.
Big fish, little pond. That transition sometimes can be challenging.
You grow up in a hurry.
You do. Yeah, that's right. And you guys did quite well in baseball back then.
Well, we did okay. I wish we did better. The world's different today. I mean, it's such so many kids play at a young age today. And it's funny because somebody asked me, I was up there speaking at an alumni deal probably about a year ago, and I said the difference between when I went and played college athletics is you went as a young person and you finished off in your 3 to 4 years.
Right.
Today, with nutrition, today with as much, whether it's baseball, basketball, or football, you need to be a finished product when you enter the collegiate ranks. And, I laugh. Kids are so polished today compared to what I was when I, started. And I got drafted by the Atlanta Braves. And I look at that now and say, my senior year, I was just able to compete physically, mentally. Today, they come in. And that's a tribute to parenting. That's a tribute to the high schools and the feeder systems of anything.
The club programs are, they're completely different than they were.
And we have that in agriculture. We have that, and I think there's that in any industry. And a young person today, and you see it, you've been involved in our internship programs, they have exposure to so many different things than we did growing up in small rural towns. And that's a blessing. Yeah. Some people may say it could be a curse, but it's a blessing. And I think the industry will benefit from that as we go forward.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. You can just definitely tell how more, worldly young people are today than I guess we were in our day. So they're just exposed to a lot more, for sure.
Technology provides some of that, just the ability to access it.
So after finishing up at Purdue, tell us about your career journey there, Phill.
Well, right out of Purdue, I started working for a company called Sandoz Crop Protection and went through their training program. And believe it or not, I only worked for them for about a year, and I'd probably still be working for them or a piece of them, which is split up between BASF and Syngenta. But sure. I I met a bunch of Helena folks, and I started calling on a bunch of Helena folks. And at that time, Helena had a really new presence. We had only been present in the Midwest market since 1987. And so I called on some guys in Saginaw, Michigan, and got to know them, got to trust them. They took me under their wing and, really took an investment or provided an investment in me. And next thing I know, I was sitting around having dinner, being talked into coming to work for Helena. Helena needed a presence in the state of Indiana, and I was living in Lansing, Michigan at the time. And I migrated down back to Indianapolis, and best thing ever happened. I came to work for Helena, and I met my wife all within the first 90 days of coming to work. So
2-for-1 deal.
That's right. It's and still fun, having fun today.
There you go. That's awesome. So spent some time there, then you transitioned out to California.
I did. Well, I started out as a sales rep in Western Indiana and had really from the northern state line to the southern state line. So from Valparaiso, Indiana to Evansville was my territory. It wasn't hard to sell much back then.
There you go.
Actually, it was. Helena was unknown, believe it or not, in those areas. But my first location was out of Greenup, Illinois, and we serviced distribution customers through that. And the retail transition had started then. We had just made an acquisition of some plants in Bluffton, Indiana, but started out as sales rep, then moved to Waterville, Michigan, went back to Michigan to be a branch manager. And then was an area manager in Indianapolis for about a year and a half, 2 years, and had 5 states surrounding Indiana. And then around 2000, I moved to California and was division manager for our California, Arizona business from 2000 to 2010. And, had a chance to learn about an irrigated market. I really grew up in the corn, soybean market and wheat. Really didn't know anything then, and hats off to those fellas. Those people adopted me and taught me more than I was supposed to be leading them, but they led me a lot more. But the one thing that I was proud of is I was able to bring some energy toward Helena to them and some learnings that I had learned from some of my mentors that they were ripe for, and provide leadership. And they provided agronomics, and proud of that division today. That division's still one of the best, I call it, prize fighters we have pound per pound, especially when you look at the diversity we have and the market presence. So that was a great 10 years.
A couple hundred crops out there, right?
Just a few.
Of just a few.
Yeah, imagine going from 3 to from vegetables to palm fruit to grapes to both raisins and table grapes and actually wine grapes. So very diverse marketplace, different in Arizona than it is in California. And at the end of the day, you don't have to look for much in terms of a variety of crops and flavors there.
What an exciting time, though, to experience all of those multiple crops, then couple that with your experience in the corn and soybean market, which is cornerstone, really, to American agriculture. But those specialty products are very, very important as well to our consumers. So from there, you moved on to, I believe, HII, Helena Industries.
Yes, got a chance to run our manufacturing plant, moved to Memphis here, Collierville in 2010, and for the next 7 years kind of went out of what we would call the traditional industry. To be quite honest, when I was growing up in the company, I didn't know a lot about our manufacturing presence, and I didn't realize all that went on behind the scenes and the partnerships that are created, and also how products get from point A to point B and built, whether it be imported from China or imported from India, or really how the web is woven, and it's really unique from that end. And so did that for 7 years and learned a lot. I mean, if I was to tell you, you think about not many people get the opportunity to move from Midwest guy to the West and then come back and dive right into manufacturing. Sure. I missed the industry. In 2017, I moved to the role that I'm in today, and I missed the distribution retail business. But what we were able to do is the guys at Helena Industries were wonderful in terms of welcoming me. And once again, was able to knife some of the Helena culture, some of the Helena, just caring about putting our people first into that business. And they've taken that to a whole new level today. Those plants are tremendous, and they've grown. But it was a great time for me to learn from those folks, and it was a great time for me to learn about the industry at a pretty young age.
Well, so today in your role here, you help guide a lot of different areas within Helena Agri-Enterprises, and one of those areas is the Helena Products Group. And I know you're still involved pretty heavily with Helena Industries, as well as different departments, including our logistics or our transportation area and fleet services, IT.
Yeah, to name
I
a
didn't
few.
know you were an IT guy, Phill.
Well, I'm clearly not, but I got good people.
That's right.
And you talk about some of those. It's funny. I laugh because when you look at the manufacturing entity, and I still keep arm's length distance and chairman of the board of that subsidiary and not involved day to day. But the one that I really enjoy, or I always tell my team, the one I could run is the one Patrick's running in terms of the HPG, and that's the fun platform for me. That's the natural fit in terms of sales and marketing and really reaching our people and providing products that add value. You laugh a little bit about the IT. Really, who would have thought? I mean, today's world of growth, and I can tell you from personal growth, that is one of the areas that I've had to invest myself into, because the world is changing. It changes so fast, and if you're not on top of it, you not only miss the day, you miss the last year. I said in a seminar a few years ago, and one of our partners said, technology is changing as fast as it's ever changed, but it's as slow as it will ever change. And if you think about that task, you think about that challenge, that's pretty daunting when you look at it. And the thing I'm trying to do, you asked the question, and Mike McCarty actually asked me to sit over IT and work with our teams there, back in 2017. And the challenge was, how do you link it to everything? How do you take it, instead of making it cumbersome, how do you take it for our people and for our customers and partners, both inside Helena and outside Helena, and make it relatable, also make it usable?
That's right.
And I'm not saying we have that perfected by any means, but one thing I think you could see is we make our decisions, we try to make them with a goal in mind of what does the end product look like? Because you can get caught up into fads in technology, and at the end of the day, fads cause a lot of pain. Maybe not on the person who adopted the fad, but the person who has to implement the fad. And if you can make a technology a way of life, or a solution for a problem, or identify a need and solve it, then it'll last the test of time. And that's what we're trying to do. And you can see that play out in the 4 pillars we have internally, and try to use with our AgVance Power BI, 2 of those 4 pillars. We're trying to use that to make our billing systems better, but also we're trying to power it with information that allows not only our people, but our growers and customers across the U.S. to make better intuitive decisions down the road.
Sure. And, I think, as we kind of talk about ag retail and the evolution of Helena for that matter, there's times in history that really, or that point in our industry anyhow, that really make you step back and go, there's a way to do this a little differently. And I think one of them would be back in the 90s when biotechnology was introduced. But I also think during COVID, and not just the aha of COVID, but coming out of COVID, it raised the bar on technology. It forced us into a space that was really uncomfortable. But I think we came out of it really growing as an industry and as a company, and the adoption for new technologies is far more, I guess folks are more open to it today than they ever have been.
I couldn't agree more, and it varies at different levels, but I think what the COVID era, good, bad, or indifferent, if you liked it or if you didn't like it, taught us that we could lean on technology, and it wasn't the enemy. Right. Technology was one of the facilitators to provide an opportunity to either communicate with a customer, either solve a better problem through agri-intelligence or some type of field solution. But at the end of the day, the ability, all of us for a period of time, and I'm very proud of our people because they stayed in contact face-to-face with their customers. And I kind of laugh because out in the field, they were looking at some of the rural areas, were looking at some of the populated areas, say, what are you guys doing up there? Or what? I speak for us at our corporate office, and, they were somewhat right, but at the same time, holistically, we had to provide a safe environment for all of our folks. It doesn't matter if you were in a corporate office or if you were at a location, to deliver the messages and service the customers they needed. And technology brought that ability to do that quicker. And people who fought technology prior to, I don't care if you were new in your career or older in your career, for lack of a better term, you started to embrace some things and say, it's not the dark cloud.
Right.
It can be the silver lining to some of this stuff. And it laid the groundwork for some of our folks to bring solutions that it accelerated the rate of adoption. It clearly did.
Well, I think it's a great point. To your point, folks become more open to technology, and now it's game on. I mean, we're looking at stuff today through our agri-intelligence platform, but through other platforms that could really transform the ag retail business.
No doubt.
You know, what kind of things are your team exploring, I guess, that you foresee in the future in terms of technology advancements?
Well, one thing we know, it's funny because when we came out or we're in COVID, everybody thought, well, the days of virtual platforms, the days of online transactions, that's going to take stride in the industry. Mm-hmm. We never felt that way. We always felt like this would pass, but we also felt like we could use technology, still believe this today, to enhance the interaction with our sales teams with their end user customer.
Sure.
We could use technology to enhance how I communicate with my team, or they communicate with the end user. Really, technology is an enhancement, another bullet in the gun, for lack somebody may say, another opportunity. But what we're trying to do is really focus on our technology platforms, and I don't care if it's in agri-intelligence, interfacing with soil samples, our base billing platforms, to collecting bills or invoicing systems. One thing we're infatuated with is making that process better. And I think that's the art of the dance. We can't do that by ourselves. We have, in between that space that I just described, we have the likes of our application partners that we have to interface technology with. We have our blending equipment at the locations that we have technology at. And then at the end of the day, we have credit card companies. We have banks that we, on the tail end of the process in terms of the collection or borrowing side. All those have to touch a seamless, flawless technology platform. And that's our goal. Our goal is to make that seem easy, not only to our people, but to our customer. And those that figure that out, I think our customers realize it's never going to be perfect,
right,
but every day needs to get better. And we spend a lot of time in that. PT and I talk about that a lot. We talk about that with our business unit vice presidents, and we want to know. And the neat thing is today we have really once a month, we have technology meetings with everyone on the executive team. Because if we're going to invest time, we want to hear what our customers are saying from our people. Mm-hmm. We want to hear what our people are saying, and we want to make sure that it's targeted, not just there because somebody has an idea.
It's easy in technology to, I'd break it down, this sounds crazy, but to hop on the pretty pony of the day. There's a lot of, you said it earlier, fads that are easy to just jump on and get all excited about, but at the end of the day, can it really deliver what's needed by the customer in an efficient and effective manner? And when we figure those out, it's like it's great music happening.
Well, it just has to be an enhancement of the process.
Right.
But one thing that's non-negotiable in Helena is our people make the difference.
Mm-hmm.
I know that. I think our technology people know that. It's our culture. It's the ability, and what we have to do is empower our people to make that as seamless and easily of a process as problems. Technology doesn't need to be cumbersome. Right. It needs to be targeted. And if you have an ear to your customer, which in Helena, our sales folks' customers are the end users, our growers. And if you're in the wholesale business, our dealers, they should have their ear. But we have to have our ear attuned to what our people are telling us here at the corporate office. And that's ultimately why I came into this role, is every step I took within the company and all those travels we described earlier was because I wanted to solve people's problems. And if you continue to serve down, and you can send, and you serve them more than you ask them to serve you, then everybody wins in that process. That's been the mantra of Helena, and that's what makes it feel special.
You touched on an important area that we're very proud of here at Helena, and that is the people. That's our motto, people, products, and knowledge. And we start with people first, and it's often said that. And there's a reason why, right?
That's right.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the commitments Helena's made to the people side in terms of staffing at the locations, internally, at the corporate office, as well as, the products groups and different departments and divisions throughout the area.
Well, I think when you look at our overall focus, we have a motto, people, products, and knowledge. And people that's the first word for a reason. Our people can take products, and without the knowledge and the people, the products are commoditized at times. And
Right.
at the end of the day, our HPG entity makes a lot of differentiated products, and it is different, and we believe that it adds value. But primarily, majority of our business is a commodity business. Some of our competitors can provide the same product at a similar to the same price to our end user customers. And at the end of the day, what we have is the ability for our people to deliver the right message with the right agronomic fit at the right time. And we knew that. And we also know in a world where it's commoditized, that is the difference maker. And we spend a tremendous amount of money. Jessie Richards she's our manager of training across the U.S., and she works hand in hand with our business units in the field and the corporate office to provide an environment that we try to make it different. What we're trying to do with Jessie in her team is to share ideas that work in the East with everybody in the other 3 business units.
Right.
Things that work in the West, we share North and South. And if we continue, nobody has the perfect answer, but if we share answers and people can scale them across, then it becomes pretty contagious. And we spend a lot of money not only in training. That's one thing we learned when we hired Jessie a couple years ago, and you and I spoke about COVID. We knew very well if we invested in our people coming out of COVID, that it would pay dividends 3 to 5 years down the road. Mm-hmm. Eric and I sat during that particular time and said, what do you think? He asked me, what do you think is our area that we need help? And I said, well, we need to, instead of harvesting our people's knowledge, we need to start to fertilize it. And that was the attempt with our GROW platform.
Sure.
And we call it GROW, and it's to share training ideas, share training partnerships, share training technologies across the United States for not only our salespeople, but we also customers that we have. We're willing to do that from that perspective. But we not only trained the folks that sell our end users day in and day out, we also are spending a lot of time and money training our people at the corporate office to try to get better prepared to meet solutions, to provide solutions to those people. At the end of the day, each business unit's different. The northern business unit has a different cropping pattern and a different way of working in the south. And what we're trying to do is share all those ideas across all 4 business units so we can build a best-in-class training program that's known through the industry that people want to be part of.
Sure. And there's a whole lot of opportunity there. And we've seen a shift in just the dynamics of people that want to work, especially after COVID. There is challenges in our industry for people, and finding good people and maintaining them. It's very important.
It is. People want to know you care.
Yeah.
And that's really what training signals. Are you willing to invest in me? And there's no doubt, if you ask anybody in Helena, we're willing to invest. I think one of the challenges that we ask back is how much are you willing to take on yourself to make yourself better?
Sure.
We have all these modules that are in not only we provide in face-to-face training, we also have a lot of online stuff that people can go on their own time to make themselves better if they want to, whether it be a software class, whether it be a personality type study that they want to do. That's their business. But we try, really, at the end of the day, we try to provide a platform that caters to everybody's individual training needs and personal growth. And I really believe it separates us, and we can get quality of talent that lasts the test of time. We had our Christmas party here just the other day, last Friday, and you see people walk across the stage of 10, 20, not just 1 or 2, but 10 and 20 people, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, and 30. That doesn't happen by mistake. That happens because we've created a special place and continue to fertilize those people's thoughts and ideas and invest in them so they know we care.
Yeah, definitely. That was a great experience. A lot of tenured people, and it makes you sit back. There's not a lot of organizations that can say, I don't know of really any other retail stores, locations or groups that can say we've got 20, 30, 35-year employees still working for you.
And we don't wake up thinking we will too.
Right.
What we do is pretty soon it seems like it flies. I just celebrated my 31st year, and it feels like 10, and because the energy's still there. And when it's fun, it doesn't seem like work.
Right.
When you're making a difference, it doesn't seem like a cumbersome transaction. And that's our jobs every day. I think everybody that signs up to be a leader, and I think that's the biggest thing, Bill, that I would tell you we're trying to do is it's easy to have an employee. It's another thing to invest in someone that wants to be a leader.
Right.
And I would tell you the reason that I think we do better than most is we'll provide an environment of investment and training in our employee no matter what they want to do. And we will cater it to their needs. And that's important because not everybody wants to move across the country like I did, but they want to be really, really good in Audubon, Indiana. And there is nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
And when they want that, we need to still invest in them as rigorously as we are in someone that moves across the country. Because their contribution to Helena's team may be more than mine ever dreamed of. Mm-hmm. And that's important. And when you balance all that, you get a culture that lasts the test of time and is pretty special.
Yeah. Phill, let's transition a little bit to, I guess, the market, and specifically around our customers, growers. There's been a big shift since you and I probably started in the industry many years ago. But we've seen a big shift from being a supplier, distributor, partner, to a real partner, a trusted partner. Tell us about your vision there. What do you see transitioning in the industry? It's becoming far more complex than it was 30 years ago.
Well, stakes are higher. You know, you and I grew up on $2 corn, but commodities and seed didn't cost what it costs. So the price or the ante to get in the game is a lot higher. You know, I think when you look at our people and what's on them, and when they try to do some of the expertise that they've got to bring, it leads back to some of the training things I talked about, but it's also, I just spoke to a new hire group here earlier this week. I came over from my office and they were sitting in our HBG training room. And there was 42 people in that room and 36 were agri-intelligence people. That's where the future is.
And that's our precision platform.
That's our precision platform. And those folks will transition into being HPG product managers. They may become salespeople, agronomists, crop consultants. That's the training ground, or pretty much the starting ground for how a person gets indoctrinated into the Helena Agronomic Solutions System. And that shows you, when I came up to the company, we didn't have that title. We didn't have that position.
We didn't really know what that was.
We didn't know what that was. That's exactly right. But that's a position that was put in place not to replace the salespeople,
sure,
but to enhance the offerings of solutions through technology, through, quite honestly, soil sampling, through petiole sampling, and overall interpretation and extrapolation of the data that would enhance the interaction with our salespeople or our agronomist with the grower. That's the future. The future is our salespeople do a wonderful job, but they can't know everything because it's so complicated on that acre today. You know, you're talking about interfaces from John Deere to Case IH to Fendt, and we haven't even planted the ground yet.
Well, and that's just one area.
That's just one.
When we talk about complexity, we think of a salesperson. Again, I go back to when you and I were in the game, as like, okay, you kind of knew the fertilizer and a handful of the herbicides that were really out there. I mean, they're all pretty similar. And today we're asking salespeople to be masters of fertilizer, masters of ag chem, the broad ag chem background.
That's right.
And it's coming back. What was old is coming back again. So we got to re-educate a lot of folks there because of the Roundup baby world, so to speak. I like to call it.
Exactly right.
And it's really transitioned. And now the seed complexity is significantly different. I was in the seed business, 30 years ago, and it was like you could learn 1 or 2 or 3 good hybrids, and you knew that it was going to last for 5, 6, 7 years. Today, they're rolling off annually. It just boom, boom, boom.
It's a new game every year.
It is, and so that's an evolution. And then we start going into this precision area that we're talking about, and it's completely different than it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
No doubt. And if you're going to provide and put your money where your mouth is, where we say we want to provide solutions, you have to provide the arsenal to do that.
Right.
And you have to provide the investment. And one of the things that I think is really unique, you spoke about COVID, the last 3 years, COVID. So the market went into defense mode during COVID. Mm-hmm. Production ramped up. Everybody was running out of product. Now there's surpluses of products, and you hear about inventory being slammed in the channel. And you've got a war in Ukraine that's impacting fertilizer positively and negative. It depends what it is, and drought conditions. That at the end of the day, it's a global economy.
Right.
And what I think we have to keep in mind is over the next or the past 3 years, it's never easy, but it's been a good time in agriculture. Mm-hmm. It's been a time that people could experiment on some things, and the grower was healthy. And I think the grower, and quite honestly, a lot of people within the channel of the grower became healthy. You saw a lot of startup companies around biologicals, and
sure.
and we were able to get some of the carbon initiatives started sustainability-wise. That what we have to do is, as we move into higher interest rates, some labor pressure, all these environmental, economic factors that are really working against us now, it's a good time for the cream to rise to the top in this industry. Mm-hmm. And I think we have a wonderful opportunity within our base, not only with our growers, but with our people, to take advantage of that. We're solid. We've invested during good times and bad, and we've provided a platform for our people to take advantage. And when uncertainty comes, they thrive, not survive. And if you look back at the world of Helena that you and I have
sure.
spent a lot of 30 for me
yeah.
and 20 some for
yeah.
you, right?
Right.
We do better in tougher times than we do in good times. And the reason being is because we're dependable and we're trustworthy, and our people represent that, and we prepared them to be hardened for that battle. And our growers are going to be in a battle. Right now, they're still healthy. Right now, there's some chinks that the corn market. I watch, obviously,
sure.
a Purdue guy. I watch the barometer, and I see it go up and down, the
yep.
barometer of the farmer. I'm not sure we can get a good read right now. But at the end of the day, I think overall the grower is healthy. And we got to make sure we keep him or her there. And they will determine where we are at coming out of some tough times with higher interest rates, and where the industry trading's at, or the channel, by how they behave.
Right.
And our people have a really good chance to shine during this, in my opinion, because tough times, metal sharpens metal. I mean, it just does.
Yeah, and I think it's a great opportunity for growers to really step back and take a good look at the global marketplace. As you mentioned, it is a changing market. We continually talk about on all these podcasts, it feels like for the last, we're in our 50th episode today, but really for the last 50 episodes, gosh, Phill, nearly everyone, we're talking about something happening around the globe, whether it's the war in Ukraine, whether it's what went on in Israel, what's still going on in Israel, whether it's a drought in Brazil or what have you. Global issues are always going to impact, and our demographics with our growers, the challenges that they face, the complexity, as well as, you touched on it, the regulatory issues. It's a changing dynamic from geopolitical challenges. We had Sean McCarty in here earlier today, and we were talking about the Farm Bill. How's that going to play out in a year from now because of the extension? What does that mean to growers now? And some of those decisions are really important for our growers and our people to really understand today, so they can give that kind of advice to growers.
There's no doubt. I wish I had all the answers. And they don't have to be right answers. I
Sure.
just wish they were answers. When you get into the political dynamo of what's going on in some of the legislative arms, not only on a local basis, but also national basis, and then global, some things just don't make sense.
Sure.
But that's life. A lot of things in life as we grow up, this doesn't make sense. How many times you heard your kids say that? At the end of the day, it's reality.
Sure.
And the reality of it is there is a move to softer chemistries. There just is.
Right.
You're seeing it probably take on some extremes in our European friends markets, and we have some exposure and partners through our owner through over in Europe, and we can kind of get a pretty good eye on that.
Sure.
You also see, during our time, we've seen Brazil outgrow us in a lot of areas. That probably didn't happen just overnight.
Sure.
But to some people, it probably felt that way.
Right.
At the end of the day, awareness is what we got to be.
Yeah.
And anytime I go into a business situation, I try to figure out what can I control, what are the controllables, and what are the non-controllables. And I can't do a lot about the non-controllables, but I dang sure can do what I can control. And when you sit down, whether it be with a grower or you sit down with our people, you sit down with a supplier that we do business with, and you start focusing on what you can impact, it gets pretty easy. I wouldn't say it was easy. It gets pretty clear is a better word for it. Because I think a lot of people get caught up in what I call noise.
For sure.
And you can follow noise. I think noise has been in every industry for a long period of time.
Absolutely.
But I don't care if you're a really, really good athlete or if you're a really, really good business person or you're really, really good at anything. Those that thrive can quiet the noise down and focus on what they can do. And 9 times out of 10, if you focus on your role, you're successful. And that's what I preach to all my teams.
Sure.
I talk to our people that are in our business units when I get a chance to interface with them. Control what you can control. You can't write that farm bill, but you can control having a conversation with the local representatives about how that delay impacts the uncertainty that your grower has to deal with. We owe it to our growers to represent them in that manner. That's why we hired Sean.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, I think if you eliminate some of the obstacles that you really will never be able to control or eliminate, I mean, if you got a better chance of meeting what you need to do.
Phill, as we kind of look down the road in the future, what are some of the things that you're excited about as we, look down the future of ag retail, and what do you think the value proposition is for growers out there as it relates to ag retail?
Well, I think I shared it earlier. I think that the pace of change is going to ramp up rapidly over the next 3 to 5 years. It's already ramped up. And at the end of the day, my thinking is toward this industry is, if you wake up and say, how do I continue to add value, and how do I continue to get better, and how do I keep an open mind toward getting better every day? If you become the vessel that's interested in getting better to deliver results, you're going to thrive in the next 3 to 5 years. You just are.
Yeah.
If you desire and don't like change, you won't like the next 3 to 5 years. And the person that's able to, again, control what they can control and keep it simple, and take a very complex delivery system of technology and seed technology, chemistry change, generic offerings that are coming rapidly. And if you can quiet all that noise down and provide value in a simplistic way to your end user, you're going to have more business than you know what to do with if you're on the turn row. And I think the companies that can really harness that, and the companies that can really get focused on what's the customer want and identify clearly who their customers are in terms of the chain to do that, will win this war. But if you let all the noise control you, and you listen to all the exterior fads or features or stuff that really can't scale, you're going to get lost in the shuffle. And I also think a huge opportunity for us is we don't have to be everything to everybody. We will never be able to own every offering we bring to our customers. But I think opening your mind to partnerships, to vendor relationships, opening your mind to technology, and when I say vendors, I'm talking about seed, technology, HPG, opening your mind to the world, because everybody has something special, but not everybody can scale it. And I think the retailer is in a really unique position to scale it to the end user, but they'll be limited by the amount of conduits they'll allow into their system. And if you're willing to have an open mind with an open heart, you can do some amazing things in the next 3 to 5 years, in my opinion.
And I think that's an important statement for the growers that are listening here. That's really the direction that we're taking, is how can we have strategic partners so when that sales rep in Audubon, Indiana shows up, or Kerman, California, wherever they're located, walks onto their farm, we're not just here to transaction a product or two. We're here to provide a holistic solution. And hopefully down the road, we have the right partners across a wide spectrum of areas of the industry.
If you don't, you're not going to be successful, honestly, and you're right. At the end of the day, those are all for agronomic solutions. All the partnerships, all the alliances, all the adoptions, all the effort is how do you bring the best agronomic solution to the grower that you have access to? And, one of my roles, and Eric and I talk about this a lot, and we have our team meetings, is how do we make it easier for our gals in the field? And if you make it harder, if you, the last thing we would ever want is for someone to be inwardly focused.
Right.
Our people in those towns are part of those towns, and they wake up thinking about those people in those towns. And we dang sure need to be thinking about how we help them meet those needs.
I think that's a really important point. At our retail locations, we've got over 500 across the country. And those folks that are working there on a daily basis, sales reps to operations managers to floater operators to you name it, the secretary that's at the front counter, those are the people that are also leading the 4-H club meetings. They're coaching Little League. They're going to church. I mean, they're in the same parade on the 4th of July. They're a part of the community.
As they should be.
And that is a really important. We can guide all we can out of Memphis with different, overarching solutions, but it's the folks, boots on the ground, that really got to get her done.
They're a difference makers. And I growing up in the company, starting at that space, I grew up with the mindset of they don't need me if we can't provide value to them. Mm-hmm. And I wake up every day and drive to 225 Schilling Boulevard and say, how am I going to make a difference? Right. And I think the next 3 to 5 years in the industry is going to be hard. I believe that. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about interest rates are double, if not triple, what they were a year ago. That's a dramatic amount of money coming out of people's pockets. Sure. When you're trying to get yourself ready, buying fertilizer prior to the season, chemistry that you've got to take a position on. There's a lot of money and risk involved in that, and it's not for the faint of heart. Right. It's just not going to be. But I think the stakes will be higher than they've ever been. Couple that up with the dynamics around investment in precision partnerships. Right. But those that can do it will provide a good area to help make those agronomic decisions and a good platform for people to come work at. The farmer, some can scale enough to do it on their own, but majority of them need partners, just like we need partners. Sure. In terms of areas of technology. So we need to be there to fill that gap, and that's our goal.
Yeah. It's an exciting time, a lot of uncertainty, but really exciting when you step back and you think about the technology, you think about the innovation, you think about the people that are excited to become part of this industry. I mean, there's still folks, we talk about, it's tough to get talent, and it is, but the people that do want to come are pretty passionate about it, and that's the secret sauce.
You bet.
Phill, Hollis, want to thank you for joining us here on this episode of FieldLink, our 50th episode. Thanks for joining us and sharing your leadership insight with us.
You bet. I thank you for the time, Phill. And I know a lot of our people listen to these podcasts and our customers, and I want to thank them for what they do. And I know from time to time we ask them to do a lot, and we ask them to understand a lot. And I just want to thank them for what they do, the influence our salespeople and our agronomy teams, the influence they provide not only to make decisions that we can make that best fits them, but also the value and the service they provide to their customers day in and day out. And for our end users and grower customers, dealer customers, we're grateful for the business you entrust in us. And we wake up every day and don't forget that and try to serve that based on that. So thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us here today, Phill.
My pleasure.
This episode of the FieldLink Podcast is brought to you by Resgenix. If you're looking for a water management tool to help you maximize the efficiency of your crops, check out Resgenix. And remember, be sure to vote for Resgenix as the 2023 New Product of the Year from The Daily Scoop. Go to thedailyscoop.com/new products to vote for Resgenix as the New Product of the Year. And at this time, we run down to Nashville to catch up with Jody Lawrence for the latest in commodities updates. Jody, the WASDE report just recently come out on Friday. What do we got going on in that world?
Well, Bill, it's good to be back, and happy 2 weeks to Christmas to everybody. The WASDE report fell in line with what typically happens in December. They do not update the U.S. yield. They save that for the January report, but they do update South American yield and a couple of just minor things on the U.S. balance sheet. The good news was that we have seen, as the prices have fallen, U.S. has become extremely competitive in the world. Our corn is still the cheapest, and China wanted our wheat as we got cheaper, as we got to a point where we were more competitive than anybody else they could buy from. And on beans, Brazil is running out of beans, but the major issue really coming through, and you don't think about a canal connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans of running low of water, but the Panama Canal is running at about 3/4 capacity, maybe even a little bit lower. So it sounds like almost what we've seen the past couple summers with the Mississippi River. So that's why China really started scrambling over the last 2 to 3 weeks to buy what they needed immediately, to get on a boat and start getting shipped over the next 2 to 3 months. So that was good news. They raised U.S. exports. They cut ending stocks a little bit, but no more than what was expected. And they trimmed Brazil's soybean crop a little bit. The biggest problem is that they trimmed it from a huge new record to just a big new record.
Right.
So it wasn't, we're still dealing with a massive competition from Brazil on their bean crop.
And it doesn't look like that's going to change a lot. As we take a look at weather in Brazil, we continue to see weather picking up a little bit there. Not as bad as it was, to your point, but still those stocks are definitely impacting U.S. exports right now. And let's pivot a little bit to wheat. Recent reports this morning, not a whole lot happening there, just kind of going down.
Yeah, China really didn't, they didn't send out an email that said, hey, we bought plenty last week, we're done.
Yeah.
You can just tell it by what is going on at the major elevators and the export terminals when the cash markets see basis drop like it was. You could tell China was shopping last week by the big elevators' desire to pay more to get that wheat heading their way. And then when they got enough, they have cut basis back, and you saw wheat today, drop back 25 cents accordingly after a red hot week of sales last week. But it's still going to trim exports, or it's going to trim ending stocks. And if the USDA is right about further cuts this winter and next spring in both the soft and hard wheat varieties, the wheat balance sheet around the world is going to become interesting. I don't think we're looking at what happened like after Russia invaded Ukraine, but we certainly, if you looked at all the landscape, you would say wheat has the most interesting bullish story potentially heading into 24.
Yeah, it is kind of leading the bull story of all of our primary inputs right now, or commodities rather. It's the wheat game. Let's move on to corn a little bit. Again, just kind of hanging in there.
Yeah, corn is stuck, and I wrote about it in today's comment, between $4.80 and $5 for the better part of 2.5 months. And even looking at beans in that capacity, from the end of July, beans have been trading in about a 60-cent range, and a 60-cent range in beans is equivalent with a 20-cent range in corn. So the world has got all of the news digested in the markets, and when they get cheap enough to where China wants to buy more because they're more competitively priced, they're buying. You can see end user demand at the lower end of the ranges. Then when we get to the top of the ranges, you have speculative selling and you have profit taking for anybody that was on the bullish side on the rise.
Well, definitely, Jody, we're going to get into some deeper strategy in our next episode as we kind of get to the end of 23 and we start really looking at 24. But before we transition to 24, there may be an opportunity or two for growers out there as it relates to diesel, doing some some hedging in that area. Let's talk about energy.
Yeah, the energy market has really been hard to figure because OPEC has been unusually silent as crude and diesel and all the other energy bases coming out of that have just continued to fall and fall, as we have seen poor numbers out of China, economic numbers, and then just the ongoing concern of a worldwide, at least a soft landing, potentially a recession and lower use in 2024. And crude under $70 is normally where you can expect OPEC to come in, make some negotiations with all the countries to have a few of them cut enough to where they get back up to their sweet spot of about $80 a barrel. So I'm not, I don't see the catalyst until OPEC moves that it's going to rally back to $80, but I don't want to be in the position either where I'm sitting here with my tanks empty, wondering if it's going to go 2 or 3 cents cheaper, and then I look up and I have to pay 15 or 20 cents more for it, when you just have to take the calculated risk that $70 crude and wherever we are, about $2.40, $2.30 in futures diesel, it is a pretty good base to start looking at hedging all your fuel needs.
Yeah, as a grower, if you're going to be farming next year, now's the time to really be paying attention to the energy side of things. Maybe taking a position if it fits your farm and your spreadsheet right now as we wrap up 2023. Jody, I want to thank you for joining us here on this episode of FieldLink, and we're certainly going to be circling back in a couple weeks to get ready for 24 and deep dive into the different strategies for your marketing of your grain inputs.
All right, Bill, thank you. And if we don't put the podcast out till after Christmas, wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Thanks for joining us, Jody. Thanks for joining us on our 50th episode of FieldLink. We appreciate you downloading this episode and sharing this insight with other friends and family across our great nation.